Welcome to the second part of Government Accounting, covered in Unit 3 of Syllabus, MCOM Accounting Final, Jain and Vyas University for examination of 2020-21, Paper 201, Advanced Accounting, second. For your consideration, every time we show you the entire syllabus and the part covering in the continuing video. This is the entire syllabus of paper 201 of Advanced Accounting second, and at present we are continuing with unit 3 shown in different color on your screen. The next point of discussion in this chapter is government accounting and reporting. Government accounting and reporting we will discuss under three different heads: Controller General of Accounts, CGA, role of CGA, and Government Accounting and Information Technology. Controller General of Accounts, CGA, is the apex accounting body in the Government of India. It is the principal accounts advisor to the Government of India and is responsible for establishing and maintaining a technically sound management accounting system. The accounts of the civil ministers are compiled and maintained by the pay and accounts offices, the basic accounting units. The pay and accounts offices maintain line item wise accounts of all the transactions involving Consolidated Fund of India, Contingency Fund of India, and Public Accounts of India. All these are to be discussed separately in this lecture later on. Various subsidiary accounts such as loan accounts, fund accounts, etc. are also maintained by these units. The accounts compiled by the pay and accounts offices are consolidated on a monthly basis in the principal accounts offices at the ministry's headquarters. The consolidated accounts of the ministry are rendered to the Controller General of Accounts. The accounts received from various ministries are consolidated in the office of the Controller General of Accounts to generate the accounts of the Government of India as a whole. These monthly accounts are reviewed and a critical analysis of expenditure, revenue collection, borrowings, and deficit is prepared for Finance Minister. Role of CGA: consolidating monthly accounts of the Government of India and reporting on the fiscal deficit is the primary responsibility of CGA. The monthly accounts are compiled in the CGA office and a monthly review indicating flow of expenditure, revenue collection, internal and external borrowings, and fiscal deficit is prepared for Ministry of Finance. A summary of the monthly accounts is also placed on the web. He prepares a critical analysis of expenditure, revenue, borrowing, and deficit for the Finance Minister every month. He also prepares annual appropriation accounts and union finance accounts for presentation to the Parliament. Ministers, departments approach the Controller General of Accounts for advice on accounting procedures for new schemes, programs, or activities undertaken by them. The advice rendered by the CGA generally covers aspects related to maintenance of accounts, collection of receipts, and its crediting into government account, release of payment and its accounting, creation and operation of funds within government accounts, banking arrangements for making payments and collecting receipts, etc. The advice of the Controller General of Accounts is binding on the ministries, departments. Government Accounting and Information Technology. It is a continuous effort towards improving the efficiency and the quality of the services rendered by the department. Information technology has been introduced at almost all levels of operations. At the three levels, namely the Controller General of Accounts, Principal Accounts Offices, and the Field Pay and Accounts Offices, software packages, namely GAINS, Government Accounting Information System, Contact Controller's Account, and Improve Integrated Multimodule Processor for Voucher Entries are being used to consolidate Government of India accounts. The monthly accounts are now published on the web on the last day of the month following the month of account, that is, the accounts for October 2020 will be available on the last day of November 2020. Efforts are continuing to automate a number of other processes at various levels. The systems group in the Office of the Controller General of Accounts assists the Controller General of Accounts in the policy formulation and use of information technology in the accounting offices of the government. The software supports to the organization is provided by the National Informatic Center under the Ministry of Planning. Features of government accounting in India. One of the most distinctive features of the government accounts in India is the minute detail with which the financial transactions are recorded in the account books. All transactions are classified on a six-tier functional classification with major heads representing a broad function of the government at the top and an object head representing the activity at the bottom. The intermediate level represent sub-functions, programs, schemes, and sub-schemes. The functional classification is applicable to receipts as well as payments. Since the country follows a plan based model of economy, the expenditure of government is divided into plan and non plan. As the name suggests, the plan expenditure is directly related to expenditure on schemes and programs and vices in the plans. The non plan expenditure is the expenditure incurred on establishment and maintenance activities. Further, distinction is made between the expenditure, which under the provisions of the Constitution is subject to the vote of the legislature, and the rest, which is charged upon the Consolidated Fund of India. Since the budget is on an annual basis, the accounts have to conform to it. The accounts are maintained on cash basis. Only the actual receipts realized and the payments made during the year are recorded. Article of the Constitution provides for creation of a Consolidated Fund of India, Contingency Fund, and public accounts. Now, the next point of discussion is accounts of the government. The Constitution of India provides for the manner in which the accounts of the government have to be kept. The accounts of government are kept in three parts, namely Consolidated Fund, Contingency Fund, and Public Account. They are now being discussed. Consolidated Fund of India. The Consolidated Fund is constituted under Article 266 (1) of the Constitution of India. All revenues received by the government by way of taxes like income tax, GST, customs, and other receipts following to the government in connection with the conduct of government business, that is, non-tax revenues, are credited into the consolidated fund. Similarly, all loans raised by the government by issue of public notifications, treasury bills, internal debt, and loans obtained from foreign governments and international institutions, external debt, are credited into this fund. All expenditure of the government is incurred from this fund, and no amount can be withdrawn from the fund without authorization from the parliament. This is the largest of all the three funds. Next, Public Accounts of India. The Public Accounts of India is constituted under Article 266(2) of the Constitution. The transactions to be recorded in it relate to debt other than those included in the Consolidated Fund of India. The transactions under debt, deposits, and advances in this part are those in respect of which government incurs a liability to repay the money received or has a claim to recover the amounts paid. The transactions relating to remittances and suspense shall embrace all adjustment heads. The initial debits or credits to these heads will be cleared eventually by corresponding receipts or payments. The receipts under public account do not constitute normal receipts of government. Parliament authorization for payments from the public account is therefore not required. Next, Contingency Fund of India. The Contingency Fund of India, set by the Government of India under Article 267 of the Constitution. It records the transactions connected with contingency. It is held on behalf of President by the Secretary to the Government of India, Ministry of Finance, Department of Economic Affairs. The corpus of this fund is rupees 500 crores. Advances from the funds are made for the purpose of meeting unforeseen expenditure, which are resumed to the fund to the full extent as soon as Parliament authorizes additional expenditure. Thus, this fund acts more or less like an impressed account of Government of India in case of emergency. Comptroller and Auditor General of India. The Comptroller and Auditor General of India, C&AG, is an authority established by the Constitution under Part-5, Chapter 5, Subpart 7b, Article 148 of Constitution of India, who audits all receipts and expenditure of the Government of India and the state governments, including those of bodies and authorities substantially financed by the government. The CAG is also the external auditor of government owned corporations and conducts supplementary audit of government companies, that is, all non banking, non insurance company in which union government has an equity share of at least 51% or subsidiary companies of existing government companies. Comptroller and Auditor General is the guardian or caretaker of the national purse. He is appointed by the President of India for a tenure of 6 years. The Constitution has instituted the British system of responsible government of India. The substances of responsibility is that the executive, that is, the Prime Minister and the Cabinet ministers, remain answerable for all their activities to the popularly elected members of the legislature. The responsibility becomes empty unless financial activities of the government are subject to parliamentary scrutiny. For this, it is imperative that there should be an independent authority to examine and scrutinize the financial transactions of the government. Since he is the impartial head of the audit and account system of India, it is essential that he should be independent of executive control. With this object in view, the Government of India Act of 1935 made the Auditor General of India irremovable except in like manner and on like grounds as a judge of the federal court. The office of the Comptroller and Auditor General is an adoption of the office of the Auditor General under the Act of 1935, Article 148 to 151 of the Indian Constitution, create and regulate the office of Comptroller and Auditor General of India. The office of the Comptroller and Auditor General is considered as pivotal to the control of entire financial system of the country. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar felt that the Comptroller and Auditor General of India shall be the most important officer under the Constitution of India. Role, function, and duties of the Comptroller and Auditor General. The role, function, and duties of the Comptroller and Auditor General are elaborated by the Comptroller and Auditor General Duties, Powers, and Conditions of Service Act 1971, 56 of 1971. An amendment of this act in 1976 has relieved him from preparing the accounts of the government. As per section 10 of the said act, the role duties of the Comptroller and Auditor General has been discussed as under. Number 1. Comptroller and Auditor General to compile accounts of Union and States. The role of C and AG includes compilation of accounts, compiling the accounts of the Union and of each state from the initial and subsidiary accounts rendered to the audit and accounts offices under his control by treasuries, offices, or departments responsible for the keeping of such accounts and keeping such accounts in relation to any of the matters specified in the above clause as may be necessary. However, the President may, after consultation with the Comptroller and Auditor General by order, relieve him from the responsibility for compiling. Number 1. The said accounts of the Union either at once or gradually by the issue of several orders, or second, the accounts of any particular service or department of the Union. Third, relieve him from the responsibility for keeping the accounts of any particular class or character. Moreover, the government of a state, with the previous approval of the President and after consultation with Comptroller and Auditor General by order, relieve him from the responsibility for compiling. Number 1. The said accounts of the state either at once or gradually by the issue of several orders, or number 2. The accounts of any particular service or departments of the state. Number 2. Comptroller and Auditor General to prepare and submit accounts to the President, Governors of State, and Administrators of Union Territories having legislative assemblies. Number 3. Comptroller and Auditor General to give information and render assistance to the Union and States. Number 4. General provisions relating to the audit. It shall be the duty of the Comptroller and Auditor General to audit all expenditure from the Consolidated Fund of India and of each state and of each union territory having a legislative assembly, and to ascertain whether the monies shown in the accounts as having been disbursed were legally available for the application to the service or purpose to which they have been applied or charged, and whether the expenditure conforms to the authority which governs it. To audit all transactions of the Union and of the states relating to contingency funds and public accounts. To audit all trading, manufacturing, profit and loss account and balance sheets and other subsidiary accounts kept in any department of the Union or of a state, and in each case to report on the expenditure, transactions or accounts so audited by him. Number 5. Audit of receipts and expenditure of bodies or authorities substantially financed from union or state revenues. Number 6. Functions of Comptroller and Auditor General in the case of grants or loans given to other authorities or bodies. Where any grant or loan is given for any specific purpose from the Consolidated Fund of India or of any state or of any union territory having a state or any union territory having a legislative assembly to any authority or body not being a foreign state or international organization, the Comptroller and Auditor General shall scrutinize the procedures by which the sanctioning authority satisfies itself as to the fulfillment of the conditions subject to which such grants or loans were given. For this purpose, the C and AG shall have right to access after giving reasonable previous notices to the books and accounts of the authority or body. Audit of receipts of union or of states. It shall be the duty of the Comptroller and Auditor General to audit all receipts which are payable into the Consolidated Fund of India and of each state and of each union territory having a legislative assembly, and to satisfy himself that the rules and procedures in that behalf are designed to secure an effective check on the assessment, collection, and proper allocation of revenue, and are being duly observed, and to make for this purpose such examination of the accounts as he thinks fit and report thereon. Next, number 8. Audit of accounts of stores and stock. The C and AG shall have authority to audit and report on the accounts of stores and stock kept in any office or department of the union or of a state. Number 9. Powers of Controller and Auditor General in connection with audit of accounts. To inspect any office of accounts, to require that any accounts, books, papers, and other documents which deal with or form the basis of or otherwise relevant to the transactions to which his duties in respect of audit extend shall be sent to such place as he may appoint for his inspection, to put such questions or make such observations as the requirement considers necessary. Audit of government companies and corporations. The duties and powers of the Comptroller and Auditor General in relation to audit of accounts of government companies shall be performed and exercised by him in accordance with the provisions of the Companies Act 1956, 1 of 1956. Next, 11. Laying of reports in relation to accounts of government, companies, and corporation. The reports of the Comptroller and Auditor General in relation to audit of accounts of a government company or a corporation referred to in section 19 shall be submitted to the government or governments concerned. The central government shall cause every report received by it under subsection 1 to be laid as soon as may be after it is received before each house of parliament. The state government shall cause every report received by it under subsection 1 to be laid as soon as may be after it is received before the legislature of the state. The last, audit of accounts of certain authorities or bodies. Where the audit of the accounts of anybody or authority has not been entrusted to the Comptroller and Auditor General by or under any law made by Parliament, he shall, if requested so to do by the President or the government of a state or the administrator of a union territory having a legislative assembly, as the case may be, undertake the audit of the accounts of such body or authority on such terms and conditions as may be agreed upon between him and the concerned government, and shall have for the purpose of such audit right of access to the books and accounts of that body or authority. However, no such request shall be made except after consultation with the Comptroller and Auditor General. Certain more points remains to be discussed in next lecture. Thank you.